Welcome to the You're Too Valuable podcast. This is one of your great hosts, Gregory. I love when I say that. I don't know why. I'm like the world's best host, podcast host.
Oh,
Anyways,
Jesus Christ! How
I'm
do you
gonna
fit your
let
head
my
through the door every day?
whatever. I'm gonna
It's
let the rest of my
great.
co-hosts introduce themselves. So have at it, gentlemen.
Hey y'all, it's Jesse. Hope everybody has been having a good week. Excited to talk to you about today's topic. We've got some good stuff.
Hey guys, this is Rob. Thanks for joining us today. No, we took a week off last week, but we're excited to be back and really finish this season out. We've got some really good things to talk about. This week's topic is going to be about mental health days and why they're not vacation days. And actually, I wanted to talk and then start us off by covering an article by the Sunday Times this year that 85% of workers are burnout and exhausted. There's been a survey
85%. Man, that's a lot.
Yeah, there's been a survey by Reed that reveals the cost of stress and finds that almost half of employees have needed time off of work to deal with mental health issues. Something like 1 in 10 workers who took time off for mental health just didn't want to talk about it because they didn't feel comfortable disclosing that fact because they felt like they were going to be judged in the workplace. Mm-hmm. Nearly 9 in 10 workers have experienced symptoms of burnout or exhaustion due to work. Research conducted by Reed, the recruitment company, reveals. Reed found that 85% of workers have experienced symptoms of burnout, while almost half, 47%, have needed to take time off of work due to their mental health. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
So, Robbie, are you saying that almost all of our podcasts that we've had up until now have been kind of intertwined in some aspect? I don't see where that has any correlation between any of the other podcasts. They're all individual and all separate. No,
Greg, how do you make it through the day with that level of sarcasm?
Yeah, that is very much sarcasm. Thank you. That was very much sarcasm. And yes, they are all wrapped up together. So I'm glad we're actually talking about mental health days because I've had some doozies out there. I know probably a lot of our listeners have, especially these days, and it's great to be able to kind of bring this to the forefront because it can have that negative stigma to it, and I don't understand that.
I think it's because mental health has only become in the spotlight for major workplaces probably in the last 5 years. After COVID, there's really a difference now between calling in sick and calling in sane. So get where I did there? It's insane. Two separate words.
Hey! Woo! I can't believe I just did that. I need to cut that out. That's horrible.
I love that for us. So why is it that when you say you're taking a mental health day, your boss in the workplace tends to hear, "I'm on a beach somewhere"? Man, get the fuck out of here with that nonsense. That's how I feel about it, needless to say. I've always been a proponent of having a healthy mindset in the workplace, and that does require, especially with the workloads that people are dealing with, trying to make ends meet, their money not going as far as it used to. They feel like they're working more than ever. Just back and forth policies that are just draining, exhausting. Companies saying, you can work from home. Oh, we need you to return the office. Oh, you can go back to working from home. Like, what the hell are we doing? And
we're going to have to talk about return to work policies because we're going to get there. I'm interested to hear what Jesse has to think about this because I don't know if I've ever heard him taking a mental. I'm just joking, y'all. Of course, we all had to. But Jesse, what's up?
My mantra, if the companies were actually treating us better and actually had our backs, there wouldn't be any reason for mental days. As far as me, when I've managed especially hotels, I tell all my employees, like, be honest with me. Don't tell me bullshit stories. Let me know when you're having a rough time and let's talk about it. If you need to take a personal day, just let me know. We'll figure it out. But don't be calling me 2 weeks later after your other grandma just died and now your other grandma's dying and you're confusing your stories and making up bullshit now. So that just
how many grandmas do you have?
I mean, here's my philosophy on this, guys. So obviously, this is kind of like coming out of a toxic relationship where you have to lie for survival. You're constantly being scrutinized on the daily basis. Everything is your fault. The weight of the company's success is on your shoulders, Mister Superman. And quite honestly, that's simply just not the case. I do understand where you're coming from on that, Jesse. My only thing is that these are symptoms of PTSD, people's previous experiences with toxic bosses, and
Exactly.
they've got to build that trust, and it's our trust as leaders in the workplace to really establish that. And I think you touched on a really important point there. Bring us home, for our intro, and tell us a little bit about HR's definition of sick days, PTO, wellness days, and what HR is saying behind closed doors. Because I know everybody's really interested to think what HR says and how it differs from what they actually think.
Well,
See how I set you up there?
yeah, I see that. You kind of set me up for failure. I appreciate that.
I love that.
I know you do. You love setting me up for failure and kind of trying to put words in my mouth before I can actually say it. What I have to say is I kind of echo what Jesse was saying just a minute ago. Be honest with me. Let me know what's going on. I had, hold on, I'll get to my story in a second. So for HR, we as an HR, we should not care why you're out. We just want to make sure you're okay. Now, this is my stance on that. You shouldn't have to tell anybody why you're out, why you're going on.
Technically, you're
But
not
if
legally
you're
required to either.
this is very true. And just like Jesse was stating a minute ago, but if you don't have like 12 grandmas who pass away, that's a different story. Then there's going to be some questions there. But
We judging my
you shouldn't
12 grandmas, Greg.
oh boy. For me, it was like that was funny that he said that because I don't know how many times I've had people say, "Oh, my grandma died. My grandma died," and I'm like, I think I have this documented where your like 12th grandma or 5th grandma has died, and it's kind of hilarious. But for HR, we don't need to know that you're out sick. We want to make sure you're okay and that you're not abusing the time. And I guess that's where kind of the gray area goes is making sure you're not abusing a sick time or a mental health day or a PTO day. And we'll get to those later about what those all should be. But you you should be able to take your time off as you need it and utilize it as necessary. The problem comes from whenever somebody starts abusing those times. And we unfortunately have not had that
Define abuse.
stigma. Oh boy. Abuse is you're going to take, you know, 50 weeks. No, I'm just joking. Let's say you take the same Friday off every day. Fridays is just every Friday is off. You happen to be sick on every Friday. Or, Mondays you're late in for 2 hours because, you're sick. You're not sick. You're hungover. So that's what I mean by kind of
Or they're
like
just sick of work
abusing those
because
times.
it's been a long
And
week, and that's why they take every Friday off.
well, I think we're pushing somebody's buttons around here. Are we pushing buttons
That's
over
what we
there?
do. That's what we do.
I
So
see that.
let's tell some personal stories. From my point of view, for companies that actually have mental health days, even as an option, which let's be frank, not many do. They kind of tie it into PTO, they tie it into time off, all of those different elements. When you actually need a mental health day in those types of situations, a lot of times the levels of hoops, rings of fire that the companies make you jump through, is enough to make you want to head up to the roof and dive off head first.
Rob, we can't say things like that again. This is like the second time I've had. I've either talk about you can't say things, you can't talk about cuss words. Anyways, go ahead.
Greg, you make me want to cuss every time I look at you, but you know what? I love you, buddy. Needless to say, there's a lot of pressure in the workplace, whether it's in a leadership position, individual contributor, and let's be honest, that positive company culture kind of tends to pretending everything is fine when all of us are on, one bad day away from having a mental breakdown in some scenarios. The companies that don't have those mental health work days, they make you jump through these hoops, where you could potentially have a real issue and you go to the doctor, but that's not enough. They make you fill out paperwork and they put you on timelines. Like, you have any control over what those medical offices, they're like, you need to get this paperwork in by this date. Like, you become.
Oh, okay. I can't tell you on that paperwork thing because that is actually. Go ahead and finish your story. You pushed one of my buttons. I'm kind of.
I know.
But go ahead.
I understand. But how are we supposed to control what medical facilities, what their timelines look like? Why?
Be in communication with your HR, your people ops, your people and culture, whatever you want to call it.
You just said that you don't need to know why they're out.
Communication with them. Don't just ghost them.
No, you don't ghost them. Who said you ghost them? You pick up the phone, you call them. They never return your phone calls. So the servicers of these short-term disability or long-term disability or FMA, they're all third-party companies, and their primary goal is to make the obstacles so large and profound that people are just like, you know what, forget it. Forget it.
No, that is not even remotely true. It's not
Jesse,
true.
What are your thoughts on this? Help do the tiebreaker here.
It's an interesting scenario because, like Greg just said, you don't care for the reason that they're out, but then the FMO paperwork has to be filled out if they end up filling that out, and the doctor has to fill it out, and so the employer is going to eventually see the reason for it being out anyways, and then there is a communication issue because HR is like, well, that employee is out on leave. I don't need to place importance on them. I have enough other employees that I need to be dealing with, and I think that communication does start to break down with that employee, and because the prioritization drops.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I can agree on some of that when you have a bad manager. I am going to disagree with that on a lot of it because it's not true. I mean,
you might not be that way, but in general of our experiences, that's what we've experienced.
I don't. Okay, I can understand if that's what you experience, and maybe our listeners can understand with you guys. I'm looking at it from an HR perspective. As a personal perspective, I can see that. Two, the only problem is it should not be, and your HR team should be correcting your leadership, your management, to say otherwise.
Yeah, then when nobody's looking, they're gossiping about how this person is taking time off that they don't. Yeah, come on, man. I used to be in the position. I used to hear round tables of people just gossiping about really what it comes down to, Greg, is that gives leaders the opportunity to deflect their lack in leadership to point to employees that need these mental health days or that actually have medical reasons to be out of work. They deflect their own responsibility and they deflect it on these employees. And that's the culture that they create. I see it all the time. I've seen it all the time. The conversations I have, just the zombie conversations I have during initial consultations for people that are looking to make a career change or trying to advance within the workplace. I mean, just the bags under their eyes, just trying to talk about the workplace. They're just told to suppress it. And something I want to bring, a very important point is we're the only country in the world that treats this way. We're the only country in the world that treats this way in terms of development.
How do you know that? How do you know that? You don't know that.
How do I know that?
Where did you get that information?
Look up the amount of vacation days that Americans are required to receive in the workplace. Look at the amount of maternity
That's a zero.
days.
We're not required to have any days.
Only developed nation. 32 other nations that are developed worldwide at least give upwards of 6 months to a year for people to take time off. There's also vacations mandates where they're getting at minimum 4 weeks, sometimes up to 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes, I know. There's a long leave policy for other countries. I've worked in different other countries where if you've been there for 5 years, you're required to take a month off as a recouping mechanism. Now, I would agree with you there that we as a developed country need a better policy. Now, I think like the state of Colorado and some states like California. We have somebody in Maine that actually is just doing this, where they have the Colorado Family or FAMLI that allows you and requires you to, as an employer, to give up to 48 hours a year. You get 30. You get 1 hour for every 30 hours worked that you are required to offer to all of your employees. Not every state has that, unfortunately, and it's really sad. And I agree with you, Robbie, that we as a developed country do not have that. Now, as far as going back and saying that we're the worst, I don't know. We can be pretty bad. I can say that, but you also need to understand that some people don't even take their vacation days whenever they have them. I've been at places where we've had to lay off or terminate, or people have left and resigned, where I've had to pay out 100 hours of PTO time. That's crazy. Why?
Yeah, because their leadership, they have bad leadership. They constantly put blackouts, or they constantly say, no, this person's taking time off, you're not going to be able to, like, it's basically that thumb that I was talking about that prevents people, makes people feel like they're going to lose their job. And in these economic conditions, that's very anxiety inducing. So people just kind of put their heads down and work themselves into an early grave, wind up with heart attacks, wind up with aneurysms, wind up with, cardiovascular issues, whatever the case might be. That really results in people just kind of demonstrating where the workplace is in America today. We're working far more for our money not to go anywhere near as far as it used to. Some people are working 2-3 jobs just to make it work. It's just coming from all directions. And
Well, I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier about it being a personal story. I've got a couple that I wanted to kind of throw out there, and then
yeah,
I'm gonna bring Jesse as a. I'm giving you a heads up that I'm going to come to you second in a minute, Jesse, because I know you've got some really good stories on your end. Is I had a boss, absolutely love this boss, still to this day, absolutely love this boss, and I felt completely comfortable telling him, "Hey, I need to take a mental health day." And the response I got back, and I absolutely love this response, is, "I hope you feel better." And that was it. And that was perfect. I absolutely love that. Of course, we're both in HR, so we don't have that stigma of blah blah blah. Now, I want to caveat that too. Of did I feel guilty for taking a mental health day? 100%.
Mhm.
Did I feel guilty going to my manager and saying I need a mental health day? 100%. That's sad. I shouldn't feel that way. I should be able
Mhm.
to take a mental health day. I should be able to take a day off to where I can recover for myself. If you've had a really rough day at work, take a day to recover. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But not but going back and reflecting what Robbie just said about how there's a stigma there and it can be looked at wrong and looked at as an excuse. And Jesse was saying a minute ago of, I don't want to prioritize this employee anymore because they're weak per se, or they're not dedicated to this position anymore. That's a mentality that we've got to get away from.
Yeah.
And Jesse, coming up to you, I know you've had some stories. Can you kind of relay those if you want to? If not, I understand because it's a lot.
No, one of the best things that happened to me that started my transition out of on property hotel management and gave me some much needed time off after grinding for uh, 12 years, turning around multiple properties that were in the red zone because their previous managers had let the properties fail, and they were half of them were underqualified and didn't and weren't weren't dedicated to their job and but didn't have the resources as well from upper management. But um, I finally got to use that long term disability insurance that a lot of us pay for, or some of jobs even offer as a benefit. Um, but what had happened is uh, I had just got a new boss, and they had visited once, and then all of a sudden, I had noticed their name pop up on the reservation list, along with our corporate accounting manager. And so welcomed them in when they came in. Didn't they obviously had not given us any heads up or anything, and come to find out they were there after they did their digging and searching around, of course, without not letting me know what was going on, and finally sat me down and said that they were investigating for company fraud, and had done their investigation and found out that
Interesting.
that was not going on and that wasn't going the case. Of course, unbeknownst to me. Um, and the whole time that I was there, especially with my boss being new, she didn't say a word to any other employees. Was very not even making an attempt to meet my employees and talk to them and ask them how things were going, and a typical visit that usually my boss would do. Very unapproachable. And so once I found out about that, um, I had went and talked to my doctor and everything, and and asked if he would approve a leave, and he was all about it. There was had been some other stuff that had gone on before that, and so he was happy to put his signature on that, and I was able to step away for a year and be covered by my long term disability insurance. Uh, that was a great and much needed time off.
You know, it's so crazy that there's the corporate attitude towards mental health. Like, I feel like they've just started introducing these wellness programs, your EAPs, or even making them like a viable option. Something I did as a leader was during my monthly meetings, I would always put that information up, and I would say I encourage you to utilize these services. It really helps. I take advantage of these programs. There's nothing wrong, and demonstrating that leadership, that no matter how long you've been in a place of leadership or management or whatever the case is, it's always good to take a step back, reflect on what's working, what's not working, and how to improve myself overall. And a big part of that comes with addressing things like depression, anxiety, sleep issues, post traumatic stress disorder for people entering back into the workplace after serving in the military or coming out of a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship, not necessarily just violent relationships, but abusive relationships. There's a
Mm-hmm.
variety of different things that go into that, and just taking the time to let your people know that it's okay, that there are anonymous options out there to really address these is critically important. And I think Greg would most certainly agree with me on this.
Yeah, I definitely would. And I think the stigma that has happened, and I'm not trying to dog a generation or any generation before us, is it was a thing in the past where it was stick up or, um, buck up and become a man or, push it down. And it's not something that we should do. And it was the stigma that actually that came about a lot, and it's not fair to the workforce because now you have some of those those in upper management who are part of that mentality, who use that mentality, still have that mentality because they can't actually do anything or say anything. It's just like, what do we do?
Something that really, stands out to me in the workplace is gossip. Gossip coming from upper leadership creates that toxic culture where people feel afraid to even talk about what they're experiencing. They don't know which employee is pretending to be their work friend and just feeding information to their leadership because of the perfect fitting knee pads that I constantly talk about. Something that I really want to, just emphasize is if you're a leader in the workplace, if you gossip about your people and talk about the things that they're experiencing, you are taking that person's level of productivity to the basement. You're basically dropping them off in the cellar underneath the building and closing them into a mental space where they feel like they're being attacked from every angle. And they don't know how to come out of it. They don't know who's on their side. They don't know. So this is something that I see a lot of leaders do.
Yeah,
Right, go ahead.
mental illness is not real. Mental illness, you're not really sick. That's just something that's in your head. That's things I've heard multiple times.
Or lo and
And
behold, they
oh,
take a long time to get your doctor's note. It's like, oh, they haven't got the doctor's note to us yet. They must be telling a lie.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
Oh, here,
that's what I was going
and
back to earlier.
here's hundreds of documents of paperwork that I can provide to you because my doctor's overstaffed because everybody's fucking got mental health issues right now. This
Right.
is something that, I can provide you with hundreds, thousands of documentation, but that's not good enough because number one, the servicers, places like your New York Life, your Lincoln Financial Groups, your these servicers, they have like a resident guy that went to medical school, didn't even graduate, and has no specialty in any sort of medical field, looking at these documents, making decisions. Are you telling me that that person's more qualified to say that there's something that needs to be resolved medically than going to a
When
specialist
their
in the
main
medical field?
objective is to try and find out a reason to decline anyway.
I don't know. I have
Yeah.
to agree to disagree on that because I can see where, yes, Jesse, you're right on that. No, Jesse, you should not be right on that. But the should, the practicalities or what actually is happening compared to what should be happening, completely different things. Robbie, before you go on, I want to address what you said earlier. I don't know if it was you or Jesse, but y'all were talking about the gossiping and managers putting, the favorites in front of other favorites or, whatever. I don't remember how you said it there. This is a lack of training that we have given to our leadership world these days. And I think that's a completely different topic that we have to go through because of the fact of our leaders are not being trained the way they should be when it comes to dealing with these circumstances. And this is also something that our managers should be doing that our leadership should be doing that allows our managers to become better apt at dealing with things like this because and at most of the times you can't and it's very difficult and I don't understand why we're not wanting to do that and that's one of the things that I wish that we would do because that would allow our managers to better deal with these types of things, dealing with a mental health issue.
Hmm. Well, what I can tell you is companies' contributions have been like mindfulness Mondays and things like mental health awareness month. Let's talk about it for 30 seconds in a fucking, an all hands meeting. Like, don't forget to take advantage of your mental health and take care of it. And then behind closed doors, they're telling all other leadership that they're not really sick. So they're planting a seed for that person, if they ever move into a different department to get away from that toxic leader, going into a different position in a different department, those leaders already have their minds made up about these individuals. So the toxic culture just continues.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this back on the actual employee instead of the employer. How much of this is that employee opening their mouths and saying things that they should not divulge to their company whatsoever? And I think Jesse said that a minute ago of, the paperwork that has to have all the information that's on it. Yeah, but there's only certain eyes that should be, again, certain
We
eyes should
started
only
out
have
this
access to that.
conversation talking about let's be honest, and now we're flipping the script on that, Greg.
You're right.
So I
No, we're
need
not,
you to
because
pick
there's-
one position or the other.
No, you can't just pick one position or the other. And it's just that you also have to understand that it's also the responsibility of the employee, not all the employer. I love how you both love, not really love, but I love how you both love to throw the employer under the bus this entire time. It's not always the employer's fault. The employee needs to take it. And yes, I'm getting loud because
I love it when you get loud.
you're
what?
pushing my buttons.
It makes our listeners have a much better time. And they come here for the entertainment value of this show just as much as they come for the facts. So needless to say, I'm going to keep pressing those buttons, Greg. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for it. You know what? I wish I could duplicate myself sometimes so I could just come at you from every angle. But you know what? I got Jesse, and Jesse kicks your ass just as much as I do sometimes, and we love it. Just joking.
You betcha.
No, you're not.
With that being said, mental health is only being scratched on the surface of companies addressing this issue. And this issue has been ongoing for a long time. We've just suppressed it and made it pretend like everybody's riding a unicorn to work every day on a rainbow highway. And we're not going to talk about our problems. Leave your problems at work. But, with the new workplace and the new standard for the way people cannot disconnect, they can't do that anymore. People are working outside of the office. They're working on their days off, on their PTO. These are things that we need to really address. We need to really fix these problems. Your time off needs to be time off. Yeah. And the higher up you go up in companies, the less available that is, especially if a company provides you with a work cell phone where you're carrying around 2 cell phones all the time. Let me tell you. And they tell you, you better have your phone on you at all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You feel guilty all the time.
I think we handled a lot of that when it comes to your work-life balance that we had a while back. And again, that's another stigma. And it's kind of funny. It's just like I'm coming to terms on episode 9 that there's a commonality here. And the commonality is...
It all ties together.
Right. It all ties together. And how do we make it better? And that's the thing. And I'm hoping that some of our listeners out there can take some of this, bring that feedback to your leadership teams, and understand that that's what that is. Or if there's somebody that's a leadership that's out there listening to this, let's would hope, do better for your employees, do better for your company. And Jesse said, I think it was last episode or something that, what was that quote that Mr. Marriott had? Was that
if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your guests?
Right, exactly. And I think I live by that, and I loved that.
Costco is another great example of a publicly traded company that also takes care of its employees. Companies have the choice to do it. They have the choice to do it. It's whether they want to or not. And especially publicly traded companies, when their first priority is to produce as much profit as possible for their investors, they have a fiduciary responsibility that if they are determined not to be taking care of investors over employees, customers, they could literally receive large levels of fines from the Securities and Exchange Commission. So this is the problem. This is the problem. Profits over people. That's the problem that we experience in capitalism.
I think you said
I'm
that
very
many
adamant
times
about
on
this.
our podcast. Yeah.
We have this stigma because it's kind of our culture. We in the 80s threw all kinds of people with mental health issues out of, mental health facilities onto the streets and made them criminals. We made it, imaginary problem, and we're seeing the effects of that. And needless to say, it's just the mindset behind it, because it's only starting to come to surface now where, it's something that we're talking about, but there's still leadership stuck in their ways where they confuse mental health with party recovery, nursing a hangover. And they make assumptions just based on their previous experiences, and they have their minds made up, and it's crazy to me.
When the company is the reason we're
I
at the bar.
yeah, exactamente. It is exactamente.
No. Okay. No.
You been there?
You. Okay. I may have been there. Yes, I would give you that. And I'm trying to find words here because it's true, and I don't want to say that it's true, but it is true. The thing is you also, and again, going back to all of our podcasts, go back and listen to them. You're2val.com. It is, you have to take ownership of it. Is it still the company's fault?
Yes.
Ish.
Yeah, they're
No,
the
ish.
employer.
Ish. I would say ish. And
how many times
just
have you had a manager tell you, "Oh, we're going to put this pressure on your coworkers if you can't come in today"? How many times have you heard that in the workplace, Greg? I know you did when we worked in retail. I know that for a fact.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I have never heard those words uttered in my life.
Yeah, and I have never. We're gonna go ahead.
I don't know if I can say that.
Or lies
I'm gonna pump the brakes on what I was just about to say. But needless to say,
Thank
it happens.
you. Probably from whenever I needed to take a day off dealing with Robbie.
Yeah.
Oof. I don't want to deal with that.
Here's some practical advice. With framing mental health days without oversharing. My recommendation is watch who you share this information with. You could have the best friend you've ever had in the workplace, and come to find out they're feeding all of this information to your supervisor.
Yeah,
just don't overshare.
Think they're your best friend.
Know your state laws. So get very acquainted. Just doing a simple Google search, make sure you're finding credible sources for that information, not just
credible.
a Reddit post. Not just a Reddit post, folks, and I say that with the utmost genuine, genuine, intent. It's important to, in the workplace and with workplace politics, to keep your cards close to your chest. Don't overshare. It's not required. Only if you feel it's necessary. If you're the type of person very similar like I am, I've got nothing to hide. I've dealt with mental health issues. I've dealt with illness issues. I've dealt with disability issues, not only as, for myself, but I've helped people navigate the complexities of these processes. And I can tell you, be human in the workplace. As long as you demonstrate, the human element, I think you have a better chance of connecting with leaders, connecting and resonating with people in the workplace. It's important to just maintain that human element and not just make everything so robotic. But that's my 2 cents. Greg, what you got?
Wow, I really, I have to say, I really appreciate that, Robbie. That was actually very thoughtful, very nice, and appreciated. And that helps me with some of the HR advice that I can give you as somebody going off on that is you don't have to overshare. You don't have to give your manager, your coworkers, any information. If your manager, just like Robbie said at the very beginning of this podcast, it is not required for you to tell a manager why you're off. They're going to be nosy. They're going to ask you, Well, what's going on? Almost like, oh, I really care about you, but all they're willing to do is just trying to get that extra little bit of information.
So they can
I'm not
gossip
required to
about
say
it.
that. I'm not going to go there, but you don't have to tell them what's going on. You don't. Okay. Now, have that open communication and be honest if you want to, and be like, I need a mental health day. And as a manager, now, you shouldn't be abusing it. We talked about abusive earlier, and doing that. I need a mental health day because I need to take some time off for my mental health. Cool. If your manager presses you, go to your HR. And I will tell you, if you need to change jobs, then you need to change jobs. And I know that's easier said than done for certain positions and certain jobs. And the thing is sometimes you kind of need to make a little bit of noise to bring positive change. And that can be difficult. That can be difficult for all of us. Now, if you're out and you need to take that time off, like Jesse was talking about earlier with his long term disability and stuff like that, if you're taking Colorado family leave, your protected leave for mental health, whatever, you don't have to share that with anybody. The only thing you
Yeah.
say, I am on an approved leave. That's it.
Yeah. Jesse, give us
And
some real
so,
talk on boundaries. Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. I didn't mean to interrupt you, man.
no, I'm good. That was good. Jesse and boundaries. I don't know if that's two things that go together.
My, I guess, more
Ooh.
advice would be towards leaders. Um, you need to, I've said this before, have a constant temperature gauge on your workplace and on the environment. Have those open sessions where you're checking in and having those one on ones and having group discussions where people can fully let out what they need to without repercussions, without you going behind their backs and talking about what they said, and give them the opportunity to make things better. I think a lot of people that get into certain jobs and are starting to have issues and stuff have great ideas about things that can be changed or improved, yet they never get the opportunity to voice that and are immediately shut down because change is hard and implementing new procedures and stuff is just the worst thing that can come up for someone because we don't want to change. We just want to keep things the same. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and try to have that open communication with your employees so that they are comfortable saying again, hey, I just need X amount of time off, and be real with them and let them have, again, open communication. I think is a big thing that you need to have in place. But like Robbie said, if you go behind their backs and just start gossiping about it and the reason that they're out and dogging them because you think they're just lying, even though they've gotten doctor's appointments and letters and forms filled out backing up everything that they're telling you, um, create that environment where employees want to be open and honest with you instead of having to make up lies or having to head to the bar and get shit faced because of how you're acting as a leader. Um,
Yeah,
that's why
I
I
will
keep
tell you.
going back to the company and leadership is 9 times out of 10 to blame for things that happen in the workplace. The
Yeah.
employee there is there to work and do their job, and the roadblocks are because of corporate and leadership.
I agree. And, something that I think really kind of contributes to this is we touched on this briefly earlier in this conversation, but just the specific making the stars align to be able to take time off. Like no two employees can be out at the same time. That's not my fucking problem. Like you,
You have
you
to
have a
find your own
business to run.
coverage.
So as a
Oh,
leader,
I
you should
can't
be able.
stand that.
So yeah, so these are the types of games that employers play. That may not actually be a reflection of the employer, but the companies are not doing anything about these leaders in the first place. So that's number one. Let's
Yeah.
just air that out for what it is. This is why we can blame the employer, because they protect their leaders at all costs.
Most of
Um,
the time, they protect their leaders at all cost.
yes, most of the time. And I
Robbie,
really,
hold on. I need to stop you because I want to go back to what Jesse said just a second ago. This is
yeah,
sticking with
go
me,
ahead.
and it's kind of wondering. Jesse, you were talking about a manager gossiping about their employee, sorry, not employer, their employee, on them being out for sick or whatever. How many times would you think that that person needs to hear that their manager was gossiping before they lose all respect for that manager?
Once. You shouldn't be gossiping
Once.
about your employer like that, especially to other line level employees that are the same position or same department. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
experiencing that in my current job.
it's actually a form of narcissism, reputation planting. Is
Yeah,
what
it's
these
crazy.
is. It's basically uh, not leaders doing their jobs to get employees that they don't want there out. They're just making the workplace very uncomfortable for them, so they find every possible reason to want to quit because they don't want to do their
Yeah.
jobs.
And so
Let's call
I
it what it
want to
is.
emphasize this in a manner to all of our leaders out there, or want to be leaders, or are wrapping up their leadership positions one time. And I cannot emphasize that enough. One time. That's all it takes. And you're going to lose that respect of that employer. And then you're going to get, just like we've all been saying on this podcast, and see, this hits a very big, very big point for me. So that one time, you're going to lose that. And then that employee is going to want to come to you and lie to you for anything because they don't want to tell you the truth. They don't want to say anything because they know that they have heard that you're going to go behind their backs and gossip about them. And that breaks that trust in them more than anything. And I
Yeah,
have seen
I
that
agree.
over and over and over and over again.
There's long-term consequences of ignoring mental health, and I feel like corporate America
Oh yeah.
has only addressed it in a way. My best correlation is, imagine being in a rowboat with your coworkers. That ship gets a hole in the bottom. It starts leaking, and leadership hands you a roll of duct tape and says, "Fix the problem." There's really this ship is fucking sinking. Like, duct tape is not going to fix the problem. Having a 30-minute segment is not going to fix the problem. And you certainly can't fix the problem with a pizza party. I'm going to say that
What about
again.
a pizza party?
He,
What I was about to say? What a pizza? What about a pizza party? Oh,
I want to
sorry. I
take,
think I took your
I
thunder
want, I
there,
want, I
Robbie.
want to take,
Because I was
I
going to be
want to
like, well, why
take,
can't we have a pizza party?
I want to take just a second to talk about a social media video that I was watching recently, because I'm constantly in the career talk, career
Mm-hmm.
reels, all of those. I pay very close attention, and there was an employee talking about, he's been with a company for 15 years. There was only one person in the company that was there longer than him. This guy was the ideal employee. Was there every day before everybody, left after everybody else, went above and beyond, did all those things. Um, his wife became extremely ill, and it started to take a toll on his mental health. And the company started to punish him for taking that additional time. Within 6 months, that man passed away, and it impacted the entire workplace. The workplace said, "Sorry, all of you cannot attend his funeral because we can't have that many people out of the office. So what we'll do is we'll have an hour paid lunch where we provide food. Oh, and by the way, if you can contribute $4 to the pizza party, we would be greatly appreciative as a part of their email. Ladies and
Wow.
gentlemen, that is, in a nutshell, the status of the workplace, and how the fuck does that make mental health the epicenter of what they're trying to say needs to be addressed? It doesn't. You've just
For
really
the
created a culture. Yeah. Guy was there for 20 years.
for those of you who can't see my facial expressions because you're listening to this, my mouth's on or my jaw's on the floor. That is pathetic. Do better.
Happens all the time. Happens all the time. Um,
Gosh, that almost makes me just want to start crying just thinking about that because
No, I
that's
mean similar.
I
We
can't
had
even
a
think about.
after I had moved on from my last position, we had I had, there was a task force manager that had come in and was ripping every single employee about stuff that I had already been working on, and um, one of the employees ended up having a heart attack and died.
yeah.
Wow.
These are real stories, Greg. I know that you have to have that balance, and we
Yeah.
have this conversation pretty much every episode. But I want you to think about the costs associated with attrition, with disengagement by employees, unhealthy work cultures. From your perspective, from HR, what can we do to fix it?
Well, the biggest thing I can say is take your mental health days. Take your time off. Not just a mental health day. Take and your mental health day is part of your sick time. Use your sick time. Use your PTO time all together. And it's not something that you're going to be there and it's not a luxury. It's part of your compensation. If you're not taking your PTO time or your sick time, you're screwing. I know this is about a bad word to say on it, but you're screwing yourself out of your money, and that is your sanity. And listening to both Jesse and Robbie talking about these stories is awful. I can't believe that. I don't even know how I could work for a company for like that. But as you as an individual, as a person, take your time. Always take your time. And it's kind of funny on a lot of the companies that I have worked for, and I have done a lot of uh, the new employee orientations and things like that. I have told my employees, take your time off. And if you're getting pushback from your managers about taking your time off, bring it to me. I want to know about it. And that way I can bubble it up. And I know I may be in an anomaly that a lot of HR people, a lot of managers don't want to listen to me. I'm going to go to bat for you. I'm going to go to bat for you. And I'm going to swing pretty hard. And if it costs me my job to change a culture at a company, I'm fine with it. I'm okay with that as long as it makes my employees better. But the number one thing, take your time off. Use your sick time. Use your mental health days.
Yeah. Something I will say is that not everybody has that luxury, as the corporate environment would like to deem it. Um,
Agreed.
Find a different place to work if you can. If they don't recognize time off to rejuvenate, to recharge the batteries, as much as this is a taboo topic to talk about, uh, this is all man-made bullshit. We're all in this
Yeah.
to make a functioning society. This is all man-made bullshit. Like, um, it's not that important. Uh, Careers do not define who you are, and
And
job titles do not define who you are.
no, they don't. And one of the things that I have started talking about and saying this to some of my either former coworkers, whatever, friends, we're not saving lives. Now, if you're a doctor out there or you're an ER person or somebody that does that, thank you for everything you do. You do amazing work. We, on the other hand, that are out there, in retail or in technology or whatever, hospitality, we're not going to save a life. Now, could it be very important to somebody? Absolutely. We're not. It's not life or death. And so, going back to your mental health, your sick days, that could be life or death. Heck, Jesse just said somebody was going through this and had a heart attack and died. That's I don't know. I can't
Yep.
even go on from
All,
that.
the problem stems from boardrooms. We're not looked at as humans. We're referred to as resources. Productivity is data, charts, graphs, and there's really no human element behind it. So, we're really, we're coming to a close, but mental health days are not a luxury. They are an important part of living your life. Life is more than just working, even though it doesn't seem like it for most of us in
Here, here.
today's work life balance, which doesn't even seem to exist any longer. We want to hear your stories, and we're going to change things up a little bit. You're welcome to email us your individual stories at stories@your2val.com. My email directly is rob@your2val.com. Greg's is greg@your2val.com. Jesse at your two, like,
Ah,
if you want to have conversations with us individually because you like the way that we talk, or you'd like to learn more about, maybe how HR thinks, or how a career development coach thinks, a former, executive employee, Jesse the same, any type of conversations that you want to have, we're here for. And this, I think, was a full circle moment for this group of podcast hosts. I think that we had some commonalities, and it came full circle this time. Something I really want to thank Greg is we may have our disagreements, but we always try to see each other's perspective, even though there's a little shit talk here and there. And Jesse's kind of the guy that tie breaks us and kind of gets his perspective, and he gives his personal stories, and he makes us both kind of think, wow, I didn't look at it that way. So I think that we balance each other out.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate both of you very much, and this was a good topic for me today. I think that it was a healthy conversation.
yeah, agreed. I really appreciated it, Jesse. I have to tell you, thank you very much for your story. Uh, I remember hearing somewhat a little bit about that. I think that may have been the time that I was actually in the car when you found this out, and I did not know that that's what happened. And yeah, it hits a little hard. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we both have had
Uh,
some pretty crazy experiences with that, but thankfully we've been able to get through it, and now we can tell other people about it. And hopefully, if you guys are going through anything similar and need some advice or just want to talk about it, just reach out to us.
yeah. Um, to put an end to today's topic, we're gonna talk a little bit about next week's episode 10, how performance reviews are a joke. We're gonna dive into some of the absurdities and biases, and questionable effectiveness of traditional performance evaluations. And
Why do we always have these titles that are negative? That just doesn't. I don't understand that. I need to go through these title lists and figure out, you know, I mean, what was that? HR is not your friend, and now it's performance reviews are a joke. Ugh. I need to vet these titles next time. So, uh,
Greg, I
what?
encourage you to bring on another human resources guest
I'm working on it.
to
People are
share.
just scared because you guys are brutal.
Well, we're going to have some guests to close out the season. I actually have somebody that wants to join us here in
Yay.
the next coming weeks, and she's a director of operations in the medical field.
Mm.
So, this is a really important topic because people are feeling underpaid. They feel like they're overworked. And I, I don't think that there's any other stamp to really signify how big of a joke performance reviews actually are than when they offer you that little measly 2 to 3% raise for your meats, and you feel like
Meets
you've killed yourself for the
expectations.
last one.
Mhm.
Fucking bullshit.
Meets expectations. I
Let,
Yeah,
love that.
it's
let alone
yeah,
if they're even on time.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because management is terrible with time management. Weird how that works. All right, guys, I had
Well,
fun
thank
today.
you. I did too. I really did. I appreciate it.
You gonna be
It's
okay,
been joy.
Greg?
I'm good. I might cry a little bit after this one, but I have to take a mental health day tomorrow. Oh no, tomorrow's a holiday. Yes, I forgot about that. I don't have to work. All right.
Ironically, it's Labor Day,
Right.
so
And we don't labor on Labor Day. Well, most of us don't.
yeah, yeah, unless you're in retail. Anyway, go ahead. Uh,
Well, take care, everyone. It was a joy. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
Looking forward to episode 10. I can't believe we're already at 10, guys. Look at the. I meant, geez. Well, I meant we're at 9, but next time is 10.
Thank y'all
yeah,
for
it's a big
listening.
yes. Appreciate you guys. Look forward to next week's topic. And if you'd like us to talk a little bit about your stories for performance reviews or a joke, send them in. Stories@your2val.com. Have a good one. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.